What is going on, squad? It is another wonderful day.
What's up, broski?
I got Dr. J here. What's going on, dude?
Nah, man, just chilling here. What's up with you, dude?
Oh, man, it's another week, and I am excited because today we are talking about something we are super passionate about and kind of starting to provide the framework to our podcast. And I'm excited. So Uncle J,
Uncle
Dr.
J, I'm your uncle. That sounds weird, but okay, I'll take it.
All right, Dr. J, let's talk about what's the importance of our 5 F's to give an F about, or our pillars of being brodacious.
Yeah.
So what's the importance of this?
I think this is huge because a lot of people think like we've got so much content out there, but we really want to explain what a brodacious life actually is, because it's not just brisket, which, by the way, check out that episode that you did on upping your brisket game. That's pretty awesome.
I love that. I love that episode. Now, if I could have gotten actually to do it out in with the smoker, that'd have been awesome. But weather was not on our side that day.
No, but you know what? It was a great episode. And, in the episode, brisket, when you're out there doing it, it's a way to spend time with family. It's a way to have fun. And, and so what I'm so excited about what we're releasing today is we're releasing the 5 pillars of what a brodacious life actually is, because all the things that you've heard, if you've been on the brodacious journey with us, really fit into these 5 pillars. And it's the way, would you say that it's the way you and I live our life by, right?
Exactly.
And I like the way you worded it. There are 5 F's that you need to give an F about. And if you give an F about these 5 F's, then you can have a brodacious life. And I think you'll find too, that when you give an F about these 5 F's, like the whole world of things just open up to you. Like literally all success and happiness and everything exists within these 5 F's.
I'm super excited about it. So I'm going to introduce them in, and I'm going to let you kind of expand on it, and then I'll comment in. All right.
Let's do this.
So we're going to start on number 5, the bottom tier, the base tier, if you will. We're going to say fun. The first F is fun.
Yeah, I need you to give an F about fun. You have got to give the F called fun. Your life has to be fun. And this is something too that we millennials don't do as well, because we were always trained that life is about work. And if I can just work more, and if I can just make more money, and if I can just have more prestige, and if people will just know my name more, then that makes life worth living. But we millennial dads, we're getting a little older now. I'm an older millennial. I'm going into my 40s, and most millennials are in the 30s, but I think we're all reaching a point where we realize that success,
it was all a sham. It
was all a sham. It wasn't real. If you are Gen Zers, by the way, out there listening, pay attention to what we millennial dads have learned. And that is
life. You get to 35 and realize, you know what? I have been slogging in the trenches for 20 years now. I've had a job since I was 15 years old. And I'm just absolutely, I've missed so much of my life. And I really don't have much to say for this extra time. Obviously you should work hard in your job and be passionate about your job, but you got to have 5 things outside of that make you complete, because your job is not going to make you complete. It is the biggest lie that we've ever been told, is that your work is your life. And there's nothing more absolutely soul crushing is when you get to go, when you're finally moving into life, and then you realize you don't know anything about anyone around you unless it pertains to work, or they only know you as the chef. And that was a big transition for me. Was, I was no longer the executive chef of a 5-diamond hotel. I was Jonathan Boyd, and to walk into a place and I wasn't being called chef. And the first time someone called me by my first name, Jonathan, I didn't know they were talking to me. They had to keep saying Jonathan about 4 or 5 times before it dawned on me that my name is not chef anymore. My name is Jonathan.
Yeah, huge. You touched on some things, and I'm aspiring to get to where you got as a high school coach, or in my case, a high school band director. I mean, one of the things that I'm pushing towards this weekend is fun. Like things in my life I gotta have fun, like making margin. Like it's a weekend and my emails are full. I've got over 100
Yeah,
emails,
they don't
100
stop.
problems to solve. And I've learned over my career that if I answer them all and take all my family's time away and I don't have fun and do some things I enjoy and solve everyone else's problems, then life, what happens if I get to the end and I retire and I never actually lived life? So,
I,
and I'll tell you some examples of fun too. Like if you check out one of the previous Brodacious Life episodes, you and I had a great conversation about some healthy habits. And we did it with like paintball and airsoft and just doing
yeah,
things that we love doing. It's fitness and it's fun. And that's another F that's not one of our Fs, but it kind of fits in fun. You can have fitness under fun. You can do so much stuff. Find a hobby. I love Atlanta Braves. I mean, can we just say it's a podcast? I got baseball season. Got to talk about my Braves. But
I talk
man,
about
it's
them
so
brave.
much fun.
Yes. Yeah, we went yesterday and we went to 3 different parks. For those who don't know, Mississippi is like 5 feet underwater right now. Massive flooding problems. There's like large sections of Jackson. Even kind of been better the last 2 or 3 days. But if you go out to like the homes around the reservoir, are like underwater, there's like sections of road that are washed away. A train derailed up in that direction. So we kept trying to find a good park to go to, but unfortunately, most of our parks were washed out. We finally found a great one, and we spent 2 hours just playing at the park. Children's, if you're ever in Jackson, Mississippi, the Children's Museum here has the most awesome decked out children's outdoor park you will ever find. It is the coolest. And they
Yeah.
got a new walking section finished. So it's about to, I think it opens at the end of the month, but it's 2.5 miles of trail. Looks like a golf cart path, and it goes around all over the 3 different museums right there. So that's really cool too.
Love it. I think that's awesome, man. You got to make some margin for fun and do things that you enjoy doing. So whatever that is for you, I mean, some folks, who knows, it could be playing golf, or maybe it's reading a
Yeah.
book at your house. It doesn't have to be a sport. I mean, it could be anything. I mean, but you got to make some room for fun. What do you say we get to the next F? What do you think?
All right. So the next one is finance.
Look, you got to give an F about finance. You young millennials, I'm going to tell you this. People make fun of our generation because we don't really pay attention to this F this much. And sometimes this is an F that we mess up, if you know what I mean. And here's
Yeah.
what finance means. Finance does not mean to live a brodacious life, you're not pursuing wealth. You're pursuing a different F that we'll get to in a little bit. But what we recognize is that our finances give us the ability to have fun like other people can't have fun, because when your finances are taken care of and you got your house in order, you can have more time for fun. You can have more time with your kids. You can have more time to do things. You know what makes this fun and makes me feel good is when I can give to a charity and not just put money in, but take time away and go and see and be a part of it. And the way you do that is taking care of your finances. Fun is more fun when your finances are in order. And that's the reason why finance is such a huge pillar. And you and I, we can speak on this. Our financial situation can be very different. You live on a farm. I live in a suburb. You take care of finances by, like, you grow food and do things for your family. I do it a little bit differently here on how I do some investments and things like that, but it doesn't matter. You can live completely different lives, but we're all on a path, and the path may look different, but we're all trying to get our financial house in order for the best that we can. I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
So I think a lot of it has to do with, like you said, creating the framework to where you're going to be successful long term. I'm not just talking about always having money in the bank, because money comes, money goes. We're talking about financing. We're talking about a constant upward climb to financial independence and working on something. You'll save up big money and then you'll invest it in, save up big money, invest it in. And yeah, your bank account drops drastically. So I want you to understand that it's not just about having dollar bills in your bank account. It's about investing and finding ways that we are going to be successful long term. There's some ways that I've invested in my retirement that's very different than the way Dr. J's done retirement. Both of them are completely fine. They're great. Again, I have a farm here, and that's part of my retirement plan is this farm. And so I'm excited about that. And I'm excited about what Dr. J has. I'm hoping to kind of dabble a little bit into that too myself, the more he talks about it.
Well, and too, the ultimate thing about finance that some of our episodes that are coming out, a lot of people don't realize but the idea behind finance, no matter what you do, is to get out of to start thinking past the I work for someone else and get to the I work for myself. And you got there long before I did, because I would think, correct me if I'm wrong, but the very nature of a homestead is the idea behind it of I'm working for me. I mean, would you agree with that?
The idea of our homestead, it's not been that way this year, but in the past, it has been that the homestead itself is self-sufficient. Every project that we bring on has to pay for itself, or we don't do it. So like for the goats pay for themselves by goat's milk soap products and provide us milk to our household. Delicious fresh milk. Same thing with eggs. We sell chicken eggs, just enough to pay for our flock of chickens that provides our eggs that we eat. And we do the same thing for sheep and those kinds of things. We sell baby ewes every year, and basically we sell just enough to where we have enough money for their feed for their entire year. And then we keep a certain amount for ourselves to, again, reinvest, resupply. Unfortunately, you've only really got about a 4 to 5 year, lifespan of like a birthing ewe, which for those who don't know that's a female lamb or sheep, I should say. And so just kind of, investing in that direction constantly towards the farm. And the goal is that the farm is becoming more self-sufficient. It's becoming financially stable. This is the first year in our homestead where it's kind of been a little rocky. And, a lot of it is not because of what I'm doing this year. It's because of my lack of focus in my finances last year when I had a previous job that was working me 90 hours a week. Because when you're working 90 hours a week, you don't care about anything. You're just working. You're hating life. You're definitely not having fun, and you're definitely not getting to enjoy those finances, no matter what that employer tells you. Even if you're getting paid overtime, which I wasn't, because I was salary. I lost all that time in that, because time is money. I lost all of that. So go on.
No, I was just gonna say, and my plan's a little bit different, but it's very, very similar. You're getting things on the farm that you're getting for today that's going to benefit you later. It may not, I'd imagine when you buy a goat or a chicken today, it takes time for the goat or chicken
before you get anything out of it.
A
peach tree takes 5 years before you really get a harvest from it. Like your big pecan trees, they take almost 20 years. We do have maple trees. So hopefully, in 20 years, when I'm getting close to my retirement, I'll have fresh maple syrup that's growing on my farm. I'm pretty excited about that, but I won't get to reap any of those rewards until I'm way on into my life. It'll be 20 years before I ever see sap from that maple tree.
Well, and the way that, speaking of finance too, it's the same thing on my side. It's different than a farm, but my farm, if you will, is like I'm heavily investing into a Roth IRA that even through the down economy, it's like every day, every dollar I put in, I'm getting 10 cents. I'm averaging, even through the bad economy and inflation, I'm still averaging between 9 and 12%, depending on the quarter. And we're constantly maxing those out. I am moving heavily into real estate now with a real estate investment company. I'm looking at a couple properties this week because I know if I can buy properties and I can buy those properties at a certain percentage discount, not only do I have equity, which pulls up my net worth, but also every time I pull in a tenant, after I save for all the expenses and stuff, there's cash flow there, because the ultimate goal is all this money that I make when I'm teaching and also involved in a lot of side hustles. Check out our episode on side hustles. But when I pull in the side hustle money, my goal is not to spend it. For every time I make a dollar, I invest that dollar either into my Roth IRA, or I'm investing that dollar into real estate so that $1 can keep going to work, because I'm on a plan where soon I don't want to have to work. I'm going to let my money work for me. And we're going to talk a lot about that into finances, because I have discovered that a lot of people, especially millennials and Gen Zers, and even some of our parents, they don't know because no one ever told them. And one of the unique
Right.
ways that Brodacious, that you and I can really talk about this, is we do it two completely different ways. So if you're out there listening, I want to challenge you to keep following our story, because the cool thing about the Brodacious life is that we don't give you a definite plan. We're out here to talk about your mentality as you get into it, and then you can
What
choose
is
the kind of
the
person you want
old
to be.
countryman? The old countryman says there's more than one way to skin a cat. Finances is that way. What works for one might not work for others. And the game plan is, though, is that you're going to be able to pluck and choose different ideas and concepts that can work, that you can move forward with, that can, help you develop a plan. Because at the end of the day, if you're not working to build you a better life each and every day, but do it efficiently, then you're really going to end up burning out, and you're just going to be like, screw it, I'm out, I'm done. I'm out the door. I'm going to give up on it. I'm going to go buy that, whatever. I'm going to go buy that $20,000 car instead of buying a $20,000 investment in a real estate property that I can rent and have $1,500 coming from every month for the next 30 years.
Well, and I'll tell you before we get to our next F too, can I throw out a book that people might want to look at? There's not
Yes,
sponsoring
please.
us. They're just a great book. If you want to know, and I think we're both sort of doing this from two different ways. If you want to read a book that most millionaires have read, you'll find it cited over and over and over again. It's the number one book that millionaires give their children. It's Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Again, that's Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And it talks about basically what the rich people know that the poor people don't know. And there's nothing wrong with having less money, because we're not talking about being rich. But you and I, if there's a quadrant, it talks about it in that book. You and I are both in one way trying to move from a wages job to owning something that's our own, whether it's a farm, whether it's a real estate investment company, but we're trying to shift to working for someone else to start to work for ourselves, because we both want a piece of the American dream.
I agree.
I
So
guess
let's
we should
move
keep
on.
going. I'll get stuck on that one. I love
Yeah,
finance.
I know that's a good one to get fired up about.
Let's
So our
keep going.
next one is another one to get fired, because as you see, each one is kind of stepping up with intensity here. So the third one is freedom. And of course, we are not talking about, we're not talking in terms of America. We're talking about the chain. We're talking about the chains that keep you back from being successful. So mental and physical health. Go for
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. One of the big F's that you can give for your life right now is freedom. You got to give yourself freedom. And it's the freedom to be who you were created to be. It's the freedom to know that you can be successful. Also, the freedom to get out there and make some mistakes, but you got to live a free life, and to say it too, you also have to have the freedom to just live your life the way that you want to live it, to become the way that you want to be. That's one of the things I love about America is it's not a perfect country, but I still believe that America is the greatest country in the entire world. And there is no country today that you have a greater chance of being the thing that you want to be. And I will just say here too, and I'll let you chime in on this and give your thoughts, is this isn't a Republican or a Democrat, a blue. In fact, we won't go into it.
We're not talking politics at all.
But one of the cool things is if you listen to our show long enough, I'm not going to say who's who on this one. You'd find out that you and I do not agree on all things political. And, I'm from the city, you live in the country, my area that live in voted blue, the area you're lived in voted red. You and I
Doesn't
may
get
agree
any
or
redder
disagree.
than Mississippi.
You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, that's not what freedom is not about liking that. Freedom is about realizing that your life at some point has to not be about the success of someone else or political candidate or sports team or whatever. Freedom is realizing what you want in life, grabbing a hold of it, and running towards it. And I will tell you, and then I'll get your thoughts on this, is part of freedom is writing down what is it that you want for your life and be specific. Shout out to my friend Eric Vogel, who runs a real estate podcast, very successful real estate investor. And I tuned into one of his sessions this week called Dream Life University. And one of the things that Eric and Tiffany start off with is you need to be specific. What is it that you want for your life? And I got to be honest with you, I'd never actually wrote it down until this week. And I'll pause there. I don't want to share what it is because we might talk about it later, but write it down so that you know what it is. What are your thoughts on freedom?
So I agree with all of that. Josh, you got me hyped up. You got me pumped, man. So, a lot of it comes down to like our conversation that we had with Frosty Banks. He was,
what a great episode. That was awesome.
He was just a great guy. I've known him now for just about 20 years. And it was just absolutely heartbreaking to hear that what he was going through behind the scenes. He was really going through something. And I got to be 100% honest with you. Corey never told really anybody that he was going through those things. He never told me he was living homeless, that his mom was basically dying at the time. He went through all of that with all of that hidden inside. And now he's breaking those chains, and he's broke out from being a chef, and he's changed his industries, and now he's getting to be exactly who he is. And now he's getting to be, one of the first African-American movie producers to show at the film festival in Colorado. He's getting to do all that. He's moving up the charts, and he's getting to work with Marvel and DC, and he's doing all this crazy cool stuff because he broke the chains. He became a new person. He found who he really wanted to be. And now this man is, he's 37 years old, but he's found a whole nother side of him. And you talk to him, and he's just, it's like talking to a 17-year-old kid, man. He is hyped on life. He's excited. And, we had another moment after the show. We were just kind of chatting, and, my boy Frosty, he was quite literally crying by the end of the episode. And I wish I had the full video and everything of it. It was just very impactful to hear someone who's making that change and finding that freedom. So our next give an F is family. That is our fourth pillar. And obviously we are gaining in strength. Family is a huge part of our pillar. Talk to us about it.
Yeah, look, family to me is the second most important thing in my life. I know some people would put them first. I'm going to put them second. We'll explain that here in a little bit. But at the end of the day, family is so important, because what's the purpose of being free if you don't have anyone to be free with? If I were to pass and on my tombstone it said, "Here lies Dr. J, he had a lot of fun," or "Here lies Dr. J, he was rich. Here lies Dr. J, he was free." But it doesn't say something about "Here lies Dr. J, he was a good husband. He was a good father.
He was loved.
Yes, he loved others and he was loved, and his life meant something to someone." You could input the word legacy here, that when it's creating something, not just a business, but it's creating a feeling inside of people that outlast us, that live us, and I've got a baby on the way. And so I'm really hyper focused on family right now. There's more I could say, but why don't you chime in a second? What are your thoughts?
I love all that. So, when I talk about families, we're also talking about our, non-traditional family. We understand that there's lots of people out there with different family situations. Please understand that we're not just talking about brother, sister, husband and wife, mom and dad. What is your inner circle of what you have going on? Who are the people around you who are going to give you honest feedback of you and love on you and tell you when you're doing great and also hold you accountable? You've got to have those people around you. And for some people, it might be, maybe that one person, or maybe it's two or three. And for some people it's 10. It's better to have 3 people than to have, 1,000 people who are acquaintances. You've got to
So
have
true.
that family around you who are helping you, guiding your vision for what you have. They're mentoring you. They're giving you honest feedback. And I love a lot of people, at restaurants, you meet lots of crazy, cool, fun people, and they tell you how great you are as a chef and everything. And I love people who are just like, I could do better. Like I've got like my dad, I love my dad with all of my heart. My dad he's a great dad. I'm very fortunate. When people talk about privilege, I had the privilege of having a dad who was there for me all the time. He was there for every game, every sporting event, every concert, everything. My dad was there. So shout out to dad. But
Yeah.
so I think it was, how do I say this? I'm trying to find my way to connect those dots there. I was very fortunate to have that dad. Not everybody has that kind of person, but my dad always keeps it real with me when I talk about my food and what's going on. My dad will look right at me and tell me like, nobody's going to eat that. I made a dish one time when I owned my own cafe, and I decided that we were doing, I remember we were doing a wine dinner for this fancy supper club. They hit up all the restaurants like once a month. And I decided I was going to do a trio of sliders of pork head to toe. And so I did like a fried hog brains slider. And then of course I had like a pork butt. In the middle was pork. No, I did pork testicles. That's what it was. That was the weird bits. And yeah, mountain oysters, as we like to friendly call the people.
Mountain oysters.
My dad looked right at me and he's like, there ain't no way I'm going to eat that. And he's like, you need to tone it back. You're getting a little too farm to table there. Remember you're feeding, a bunch of 50-year-old women, who are just really there to drink wine. They're not really there for your food. And he was right. I'm looking at the crowd. I'm like, he was probably right. Nobody would have eaten that course. But you need people around you. You need that family and that support around you that's going to tell you not only that you're doing great, because you deserve to hear that too. You deserve to hear that, hey, you're doing a great job. I'm proud of you. Many times my favorite mentors that I've worked with have, they say, I'm thankful for you. I'm proud of you. They were my family. But you've also got to have the other side of that coin in your support group that says, hey, let's work on this over here too. While you're doing good over here, we need to focus on this. So family is, a super big portion of what we do.
Yeah, you got to have folks that speak life, and
Right.
sometimes life isn't always happy, but it has to be folks that speak life, that are positive and encouraging and also open and honest. And I love that you started off with, sometimes family isn't a born family. Like maybe you're not blood, but sometimes spirit is thicker than blood. I've got a lot of folks, we have a friend of our family that he passed away, but Roy Gaskins,
Yeah.
was not blood related, but he was like an uncle to us. He was like family. He was like a brother to our dad, and you look at people. I've got another person that I would consider like a brother. His name's Brad, another real estate person now doing his thing in Colorado now. And, we grew up thick and thin, fought like cats and dogs, also party hardy like cats and dogs. And now as adults, Brad will be the first person to look at me and go, that's a horrible investment. What are you doing? Or, hey, reminds me last time, we talked, have you checked the numbers on that? Have you checked the numbers on that? Or, hey, is that really the way you want to talk to your spouse? Stuff like that. I mean, and you got to have friends in your life that are like that. And sometimes people that you work with can be like family too. I've got a couple people that I work with that are more than just work people. They're people that speak that tone of life and also encourage me to stay grounded.
Right.
Well, you want to
Fantastic.
keep going?
Yeah, we got our last one to go, man.
The
And
number one F that you got to give an
number one,
F about.
and that's faith, man. It's got to be
Yes.
about faith. So bring it home, man. Tell me
Look,
about that last F.
seriously, and we keep talking about the F's to F to give the F because it's a shock jock kind of phrase. But in all honesty, we call it the things you should give an F about because they all start with the letter F. And the most important thing that you have got to have is faith. It's you and I are both evangelical Christians, and that's an important part of who we are. We believe that God created us with a destiny and a purpose. And we like that because understanding that someone smarter and more important and bigger than us created us and has a destiny, it gives us a reason every day to wake up every day and have hope and have a reason, even in the hard times, to know that, hey, I believe that there's a higher power that has a destiny for me that is good, that is not of evil, that even when I don't understand this situation, there is someone else out there that does. And, in the Brodacious life, I know we've got some people listening that are different faiths, and, maybe that's where you're at today, and that's okay. We're glad you're here. Faith, family, freedom, finance, fun, but I know that our faith influences everything. I know for me, my faith grounds me and influences how I treat my family. And it influences and tells me what freedom is. It's the freedom to do what? And my faith, and I won't answer that for everyone on our show today, but my faith defines that next part is I'm free to do what? And then finances is the purpose of life just to make all the money for myself. What is the real purpose? If I were to be blessed more than what I needed, what would I do? Building a legacy, what would that look like? Well, it's faith that influences that. And then finally, fun. It's my faith that influences, having fun. There's a reason why, just to give an extreme circumstance, like some people may call fun being in a back alley, doing drugs and being with a prostitute, but I wouldn't do that, number one, because I married a redhead and she would kill me.
Murder.
Murder. Yes. I would be dead in that alley. But the second thing is my faith gives me a code that I live by.
Right.
So the way I have fun is awesome. I mean, like we already talked about, snowboarding and mountain biking and all the things, look, we have faith. We still drink a beer,
Yeah.
we have a good old time, but it's faith that influences everything else. I would argue that faith is the glue that connects all the F's together.
That's why that one's the top tier. Is that, a lot of people say, well, I'm not Christian and this podcast is not going to apply to me. And I feel it's the opposite. I feel like this is, one of the reasons why I always say faith is, God created us in his image. And there's a lot of people who I understand they don't believe in God, but I'm going to throw one thing out there for all the non-believers. At the end of the day, no matter what evolutionary theory that you have, scientists still, we talk about the God particle. At the end of the day, something had to create our universe. It doesn't just exist. Something had to create. Nothing can be created nor destroyed. So it's always there in the universe. Then something had to, somewhere along the way, something created the first particle that created our universe. Can we, I feel like we could start there with the open possibility. And then you have to understand that the same person that created the heavens and the earth and everything in it, every animal, even the pain in the butt mosquito, God created you of all people in his image. And I think that means a lot of different things, but it also means that I have purpose. It means that I'm important and not just to my employer. That means I'm important to my family. And also I'm important to God because he created me with a certain vision and a certain perspective that is important. And we have to have faith that God's in charge. We have to have faith in a lot of things that, to be honest, there's been faith. I've had to put faith in God in a lot of different ways over the last 20 years that I think I lacked. Honestly, if my wife actually found out how much knowledge I actually had of the situation, but I just had faith that God was going to take care of it. We've moved 5 times, 5 different cities over the last 10 years. And I just had faith that God was going to take care of it. And I had faith that God was in charge. And, there's a term, my favorite term that I don't know if you ever remember the Easter cantatas and all that stuff that my mom and dad used to do when we were little. There was a big banner that they'd bring out at the end, and it said Jehovah Jireh, which for those who don't means the Lord will provide. And I've just always remembered that. And it was just the most beautiful. It was a purple banner. It came out last, had big ram's horns on it. I just remember it so well. And anytime that I've just gotten down in the dumps, or I can't figure this thing out, or, It's just always, hey, you know what? God's going to provide. I got to have faith that God's going to take care of it. And I got to do my part to make sure that I'm doing my end of God's request, and God's going to take me on the other side.
That's it. Faith lets me know that just because I can't see it and that I can't feel it, and
Right.
it doesn't mean that it's not there, that there are things bigger than us. And that is something worth living for. And, you touched on something I thought that was interesting. When I look objectively at the universe, the laws of thermodynamics, objects in motion tend to continue spinning in motion, yet the planets spin in opposite directions. Yet if the moon were any closer to the earth, the way our tides work, like we would be a planet in chaos. And if any star came through any closer and it hit us, it would be total mass extinction. Like when you really look at everything, it's literally just a minute detail in anything in human life couldn't exist. And then you touched on this too, that when I look objectively at the Big Bang Theory, because the atheist and I actually agree on 90% of stuff. When we really look, it's that.
I mean, I agree with aspects of evolution.
Well, and you have to think,
there's a lot of things there that obviously, science, I don't think, when we look at the original key scientists, Newton, Galileo, and all these, even Albert Einstein, they all were not there to disprove faith. And their promise to science was actually to prove God. And you look at what they did, they believed in God, and they believed that their science proved that there was.
Well, and that's where I was going with this, because at the end of the day, the evolutionist that believes in the Big Bang Theory and I believe in something similar. We look at the results and we interpret it two different ways. On one hand, someone can look and say there was a big ball of gas or a ball of matter, it exploded, and it set all of this somehow into motion. I also, as a person of faith, believe that there was something that existed forever and it put things into motion. The only difference is the evolutionist believes that something with no intelligence completely randomly exploded and did all of this. I believe that a being that had intelligence, that this was too complicated, that a being pre-existed and put it all into motion. I believe that when I look at it objectively, mathematically, forget faith, mathematically speaking, I think it is more probable that an intelligent, all-knowing person created everything. And the only journey of our life is to figure out who they are. And I'll give you this and I'll throw it back to you. Okay. If we were all honest, and this kind of sums up the 5 F's, but every human on the face of the planet, no matter who they are, ask themselves 3 basic questions. All of us. You've asked it. I've asked it. Gay, straight, Republican, Democrat, boy, girl, black, white, green, blue. It doesn't matter. In Ethiopia, China, or America, we ask 3 basic questions. Number 1, who am I? And that's what a Brodacious life is doing, by the way. Faith, family, fun. You are not your job. You're more than that. You are not the bad things you've come from. You're more than that. You are free. Who am I? Number 2, why am I here? That's where we're going to get into faith and family, because you're not here for money. You're here for something. And that's what gives you something to live for. Who am I? Why am I here? And then the third one is all of us. Where do I go when I die? Who am I? Why am I here? And where do I go? And I would argue, if you're listening today, and then I'll pivot this back to you, they're the only 3 questions in your life that actually matter. Who am I? Why am I here? And where do I go when I die? And if we were going to put the 5 F's in a nutshell, what a Brodacious life is if you follow our plan of faith first, family second, to live a life that's free, to have the finances, to have fun, and define what fun can be for you, you can answer those 3 questions. And you'll know exactly who you are, and you'll know exactly why you're here. And if we're lucky, maybe you'll know exactly where you go when you die. What say you?
I don't know if I can follow that up. You just summed it up right there, man.
My father was a preacher man.
I was about to say, you pretty much, you nailed it on the nail on the coffin. It's, everything in the upper tier. It's the glue that holds the other 4 categories together. And that's why it's the base. It's the most important tier. You can't build any of the other four really without that as your base, because faith provides the moral compass for the other ones. It helps you decide what kind of fun you're going to get into. And as a chef, trust me, I've seen lots of bad fun. We're told in our industry, even, from day one in culinary school, I had an instructor who looked me dead in the eyes and says, every single one of you will pick up a habit. You're going to find habits. It's up to you to find good habits or be invested in bad habits. You can be a druggie, stoner, alcoholic, wife eater, or you can be a family-driven, fun, Christ living human being who blesses others. And you're going to make that choice and that vote with your life every single day when you show up and with the choices that you make. So it's just super important that faith be our base to all the other four tiers. So let's review those one more time. So we'll say our base, everything we build ourselves on is faith. That next part of that pyramid is going to be family. How our family structure. And again, that's not just your blood. It's your support system. It's everyone around you that helps you through life. The next one is freedom. That's more about you living broken of the chains. The next one is finance. And the last one is fun. Super pumped.
5 F's. If you can get those 5 F's in your life and put those F's inside of you, you will be it was very badly worded. But I was like not the best way of wording it.
That's staying in.
You got to have a little bit of fun. But faith, family, freedom, finance, fun. And we've got lots of content coming out where we're really targeting that. And when you look back at our previous episodes, this is what you're going to look at, that all of these are designed to help you understand that being a person of faith can be fun, to help you see that it's not all, your life is not about finances. You're more than that. You're about freedom. Something to throw in and chime in that, things that I've learned now as an older millennial. I used to think that money was freedom. Now I realize that money is only as valuable as it can buy me time, because my time now, I'm at halftime of my life. I'm actually on the other side of it. Chances are I won't live to 80 based on the history of my family. So I'm now past halftime. I've lived already. I'm in my third quarter. And the one thing I can't get is necessarily more time, because time is more valuable than money. And man, Brodacious, when we figure all that stuff out, we have endless amounts of fun. I mean, check out our episode on where we're supposed to be talking about health and we end up talking about beer. That's like,
come on.
It's
like a good beer on a hot summer day, man.
Yeah. Just go back and chill and listen to that kind of stuff. And that's what we want you to know. And this is what we're digging into, because if you're out there, we want you to live a brodacious life.
We're going to end it there. What a fantastic conversation today. We're hoping that you are living by these 5 pillars. You're going to see lots of content based specifically on these 5 pillars. And we look forward to having you here. Make sure that you hit the like, the subscribe. If you're bored on YouTube, you're start being able to see some of this content kind of moving over towards YouTube as well. I kind of listen in. As weird as it is, my work, they block Spotify, but they don't block YouTube. So I can listen to things on YouTube. So it's more reason for me to kind of pop everything over to YouTube.
Then I can see your pretty face.
I've been working on it. I'm down 15 pounds.
Here we go. I got some music for your pretty face.
I love it. I love it. Check us out next time on A Brodacious Life. We are glad that you were here. Have a great day.